What's up, Applied English, and welcome to our first vocab set of the semester. We're going to be using these 10 words over the next 2 weeks as we study Trifles, short one-act play by Susan Glaspell. It's nice to know all 10 of these words before we watch the play, before we act through the play if you're in class, because they'll help us to understand what's going on in the play. As a reminder, before I start walking through definitions for these words, I want to remind you of 2 strategies that we've been using just to help us through vocab definitions a little bit quicker. One thing is to check parts of speech. So it looks like this time we have, just counting adjectives first, I have 1, 2, 3, I see 3 adjectives and an adverb, so that's interesting. If we know a little bit about adverbs, that should help us out in just a little bit here. What else do I have? I have 1, 2, 3 4 nouns, so a lot of nouns on this list, a lot of nouns that we need to know before we act through trifles. How many verbs? Only 2 verbs. That's helpful as well. It's nice to know parts of speech because as we look through this list of words, that might help us identify a few of them. The other thing that I like to do as a strategy before I start looking up definitions is to see if I know any of these already. See if there's any words that are already part of my vocabulary. You can treat this like a matching question on a quiz or a test. If you can match the easy ones first, you don't have to go through and do them again later. So our 10 words this time are trifle, it's the title of the play, pleat, queer, notify, coroner, motive, cheerful, abruptly, canary, and lonesome. One thing I'm noticing right here, abruptly ends in ly. That should be raising a red flag in your minds right here about parts of speech. Remember how we only have 1 adverb on this list, suddenly or unexpectedly without warning? Notice suddenly, ly, unexpectedly, ly, abruptly, ly. Most adverbs in the English language end in ly, so I can place abruptly as my adverb. Abruptly it's a really great synonym for suddenly that you can add into your vocabulary too, so you can kind of switch between the two when you're writing or speaking. That's what abruptly means, suddenly or unexpectedly. If something happens without warning, it's happening abruptly. I'm going to cross this out just as a little identifier for me as well. That eliminates 1. Are there any others I know just offhand? Let's say I like to watch all those crime shows. Maybe some of you are Law and Order fans or CSI fans. You really like those crime dramas. The word motive might be familiar for you. We know that motive is a noun. Something of little value? No. It's actually something of great value. It's not a bird. It's not an officer. Motive is a desire or circumstance that influences someone to act. So if, let's say, I'm just making something up, I would never do something like this. Let's say my brother is slotted to inherit all of my parents' money, right? That would be motive, that would be a circumstance that might influence me to do something like kill my brother. Not like I would ever do something like that, but that's where we see that used in those crime dramas, right? Motive was one of the things investigators look for to figure out who committed a crime. That allows me to place another one first. And that starts to cut down on the list of nouns I need to find too, because there are 4 of them on this list. Maybe there are some other ones that are easy for you on this list, but I'm just going to start working through the rest of them using my dictionary and using my strategies. Let's just start from the top with trifle. I like Merriam-Webster. It's definitely better than just using Google's dictionary, and I like it better than dictionary.com. Let's try trifle. Trifle, and let's see, it says that it's a noun, nice. Something of little value, substance, or importance. It's also a type of dessert, but we're going to look at that first definition. Let's check my noun. Something of little value or importance, there it is. Trifle. Boom. Eliminate. Pleat is next. Pleat is a verb to fold, okay? And I only had 2 verbs on my list, so that's helpful. Notice that pleat can also be a noun as well, but it's primarily used as a verb in trifles. Let's take a look at that. To report information, no, it's got to be the other one. There it is, to fold something neatly. So that's something I would note about pleats. Generally, when we talk about pleating something, we mean that you're folding it neatly, like you might fold like bath towels in your house. You might say that you're pleating it. Something to note is that since pleat was one of my verbs, the next time I run into a verb, it has to be to report information to someone. Looks like queer is next on my list. Queer is an adjective differing in some way from what is usual or normal, odd, strange, or weird. Let's take a look at that. Not pleasant or merry, not causing loneliness, strange, odd, or unusual is queer. Yes, I do know that queer means something entirely different in slang. We're not going to use that definition, obviously. The way that it's used in trifles is to mean that something is unusual or odd. Notify is next. Let's look it up. Notify. Oh, ding, ding, ding. There's the verb. To give formal notice to. She notified the police about the accident. To give notice or report. To report information. That is all that's left for my verbs. My verbs are done. Boom. 10 already. We're flying through these. Coroner is next. Coroner, not corona. Coroner, a noun. A public officer who's typically not required to have specific medical qualifications, whose duty is to inquire by an inquest into the cause of any death. So I think I saw something that had to do with an officer in my definitions. I only have 2 nouns left, I think. It's not a bird. An officer who investigates the cause of a person's death is a coroner. One thing I didn't know is that a coroner doesn't necessarily have medical training. I always thought that coroners had to have medical training. Maybe that is common in police forces nowadays, but apparently coroners are not necessarily required to. It's just their job to figure out what caused someone to die. It's kind of the first step in determining whether something is a murder or an accident, for instance. Interesting, I only have 1 noun left as well. So 2 adjectives, 1 noun. That does help me as I whittle these down. Cheerful is next. Now one thing that you might note, maybe you can identify that the word cheer does have to do with being happy or merry, so that's our adjective right there. But just for thoroughness, let's check it out. Cheerful. An adjective, full of good spirits or merry. Maybe that was an easy one for you to note earlier. And all that's left is canary and lonesome. So one of them is causing a feeling of loneliness. Hey, look at that, lonesome, loneliness. Maybe that's an easy one. And all that leaves left for me is canary. At the very end, a canary is a type of yellow bird known for its singing. Maybe you knew that one already as well. But once again, these are all good words to know for trifles. So all that's left for you after you work through these definitions, and feel free to watch this video all you need, is to write these in your own complete sentences too. Now one thing I would note, and I did put that in the directions for this assignment, is that it is perfectly fair to look up example sentences for these online. What I'm going to ask you though is that you still write your own sentences. Copying down sentences from the internet does not show me that you know what they mean, and it probably means that you're still going to struggle once it comes to quiz time in another week and a half here. So it is important that you write your own sentence, even if you do your research. So let's say I'm not sure how to use pleat in a sentence, right? I know some of you like to go to the internet and say, use pleat in a sentence. And look at this, your dictionary actually does it incorrectly to start. The back of the coat has a center pleat, that's a noun, and a tab with buttons, right? So we want to make sure that we use it as a verb instead. I wonder if I can even find an example of that right now. Oh look, Merriam-Webster even has that section. Let's see if they have it. They even give you examples of pleat in a sentence, right? Her skirt has pleats, again using it as a noun. Here's one. Battles 100% cotton masks are washable, have filters sewn in, and are pleated, verb / adjective, to improve breathability and safety. If you were to copy down that sentence, I would give you a 0 out of 1 for that sentence. But if you were to model your own sentence about it, that's fine, right? If I said something like, these are about masks, like face masks, right? I might write something like that in mine. I need to pleat my face mask in order to fit it in my pocket. Or something like that. Now notice that I got that idea from the internet, but I still wrote my own example to show that I know what it means. That's what I'm asking for you to do with this assignment as well. Please do not copy down sentences word for word from the internet. I want to see you using these all your own. If you're having trouble with this individual word, again, try to ask me a question through Schoology or Teams. I'll see what I can do to help you in my free time later today.